Our self-worth, that's what I want to talk about this morning, specifically. And the reading that Tiffany did summed up just perfectly, very concisely about what I want to talk about, what I want to share this morning. So my first question would be, why is it we feel like we aren't getting what we deserve? Well, here's the truth. We are. We get exactly what we feel like we deserve. More specifically, as she shared in that reading, we're getting what we think we deserve. We can't get any more or less than that. Our words may say one thing, and our subconscious saying another. So in this book, Dan Millman has an illustration I'm going to share with you, which I think is really awesome, because he illustrates this through a story about this tailor who lived in a dingy tenement in a very small town, and he was earning a very meager living. Each year, he pursued this dream, and this dream was to win the Irish sweepstakes. So once a year, he would buy a ticket. For 15 years, he did that. And nothing changed until one day, there were two men at his front door, just smiling. And they said to him, "Oh my gosh, you won the Irish sweepstakes, $1.25 million. Wow, right? So the tailor could hardly believe his luck. He was very, very excited, because he realized he would no longer have to spend long hours altering clothes, hemming dresses, making pant cuffs, doing all those mundane things in his life. He could really live. So what did he do? He went out and he purchased this massive wardrobe, bought a limousine, hired a driver, threw away the key to his store, and rented the best hotels in New York. And what followed that was a lot of very young, attractive women, right? Partied every night, spent his money as if it were going to last forever, which of course it didn't. So soon, he lost all his money. He got very sick. So he lost his health as well. He was exhausted. He was ill. He was alone. So what did he do? He returned to his shop and started his life all over again. Everything went back to normal. He even started buying one sweepstakes ticket a year. 2 years later, those same two gentlemen came to his door smiling. And they said, "Look, this has never happened before, ever in the history of this lottery. But you won again." And the tailor stood there and he started shaking and he was terribly upset. And he says, "Oh no, do you mean I have to go through all that again?" You ever feel that way? Why do I have to do this again? I love that story. We can all relate to it. How we handle our money, our fame, power, anything like that is often going to be reflective of our sense of self-worth. Until and unless we make adjustments in our thinking, in our subconscious mind, our life experiences will not change. And I know without any question, every one of us has found that out one way or another. He says self-worth is the first and most important stage of moving toward enlightenment. Not as a destination, not as a thing. Instead, it's a state of being, the perception that we have about ourselves. Thus the picture, right? And this state of being, this perception, occurs as a result of the choices that we make. There aren't right answers to our own individual path to enlightenment. There are choices that we are making to be in alignment or not with who we are as a person or who we want to become. Let's back up one sec, and I want to take a look and share with you how Dan Millman makes the distinction between self-worth and self-esteem, because a lot of times I think we use those interchangeably, and he has a really great distinction. He says self-worth is associated with self-respect. It's what we're born with, simply because of who we are. And who are we? A child of the universe. And for that reason alone, we're worthwhile. Wouldn't you say? We have value, and nobody can take that away from us. We cannot lose that value. We cannot lose who we are. We can lose sight of it, though. And I know that sometimes that happens for us. And our sense of worth can change over time based upon the actions that we take in our life. Self-esteem, he says, is associated with self-confidence. And that refers to liking or feeling good about ourselves, or our appearance, or our abilities. And that can change moment to moment based on our appearance, or our abilities, or our life situation. And our sense of self-worth addresses the issue of our own intrinsic value, our own sense of our intrinsic value, of our goodness, of our deservedness. In other words, how we see and experience our innate human worthiness. The most realistic way to determine what we believe we deserve is to just look at our life. Look at our life right now in front of us. What do we have? What is the state of our relationship, our finances, our work, our education, our lifestyle? What does that look like? Is it really truly what we want? Because those things reflect our perceived worth. How good we can stand it today from that reading. Hence the difficulty with our lottery pal. We have an incredibly harsh critic in our lives. Do you know who that is? Yeah, it's you. It is you. And you aren't alone. And I find this very fascinating. There's a universal dynamic that applies to everybody in every culture on this planet. Because to fit into society, our caregivers, no matter where we live and who we are, teach us what's considered right and wrong according to what they knew. According to how they see the world or how they saw the world. So if we were good, we earned approval. We were rewarded with positive attention. However, on the flip side, if we behaved what was deemed inappropriate, we received disapproval. We were punished, maybe, with negative attention. Unintentionally, I think, in most cases. However, that's just kind of the way things work. So we learned, most of us quite well, two very critical directives. If I'm good, I'm rewarded. If I'm bad, I'm punished. Pretty simple. And as kids, we learn that real clear. And just in case our caregivers, it's so ingrained in us that just in case our caregivers didn't catch every wrong thing that we did, we learned to catch it and punish ourselves. And we got pretty good at that part too. When that shows up throughout our life, if we don't recognize it and correct it, it shows up as self-sabotage. It can show up as destructive behaviors. I remember, I know I was under 10, and one day I was in the kitchen, and I went to grab a very sharp knife, and my mother said to me, "Don't use that knife, you're going to cut yourself." I said, "Okay." So she left, and I used the knife, and I cut myself. Well, I wasn't going to say, "Oh, you're right," right? So I ran outside, pretend I was playing. Came back in the house. "Mom, I cut myself. I was playing outside." Right? She believed me. So she dressed it and, took care of it. I think she believed me. I don't know. But I remember years later, in my 20s, it was still bothering me. And I said to my mom one day, "Do you remember blah, blah, blah?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" Right? But it stuck with me. It stuck. So I apologized and said I lied and I'm really sorry, and made amends. And she didn't have a clue why, which was kind of funny. Now, I'm telling you that story not because it was an incredibly life-altering experience, but I'm telling you as an example of how our subconscious, I keep looking over here. It's not going to do any good, is it? But I'm telling you that story as an example of how our subconscious mind remembers everything. Everything we've done, whether we consider it right or wrong or good or bad. It's there in our subconscious mind. We keep a tally of experiences in our head. It's almost like a scorecard. I did this good, I did that bad. It's a way to punish ourselves. It's a way to keep ourselves in line. And it's silly. And yet as human beings, we do that. And here's what's really important. Our background, our circumstances, they may have influenced exactly who we are and how we've adapted to life. We, however, we individually, each one of us, are absolutely responsible for who we become and what choices we make. We are called to take responsibility for those choices, for our own actions. And only when we stop blaming people and circumstances outside of ourselves are we able to move forward. Are we able to remember that we are capable of choosing something different, of choosing something higher for ourselves? To start that process of choosing differently, of choosing higher, we just have to remember who we are at our core, who we are at our essence, that spiritual being, magnificent beyond all possible comprehension. That's who we are. And when we remember that, when we live from that space, we become more aware of our connection with all that is, with that higher self, with our spiritual selves. Our God essence, our higher self, is always with us. It's here and now. No one can ever take that away from you. It's not possible. In that reading, it said, sometimes we forget we're humans in training. Love that phrase, humans in training. And that making mistakes and having slips of integrity and mediocre moments are part of life. That is the absolute truth. We all have those. Don't let the illusion of the body and the physical world interfere with the awareness you have of your spiritual magnificence, though. Those things are human and real. And so is your spiritual magnificence. That's real too. We are not sinful, shameful human creatures who somehow have to earn our spirituality. We already are that. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. Life is not some kind of test that if we fail, we get punished. That's not the way it works. Great news, right? We're here to learn. We're here to go through the process that's called life. We're here to feel and to experience life with all its ups and downs. We all get to have those ups and downs. That's part of the process. Life is a gift, and that gift has been bestowed upon each and every one of us. And we're called to honor that and to live it fully in each and every moment that we can. We do that by recognizing who we are, by being aware of our source, by living life from the perspective of our spiritual magnificence. The world is full of obstacles. Have you found that out? Yeah. And so our choice is this. We can become a hermit and attempt to avoid experiences and challenges, or we can choose to live out loud and face the reality before us. And what I know about this group of people is we are willing to face whatever's in front of us. Running and hiding doesn't help. We have the opportunity to smile in the face of adversity, knowing who we are, knowing what we're capable of, and allowing those challenges to guide us and to shape us into who we become through this process. Cheryl Sabin wrote this: "We are capable, valid, creative, intelligent, unique, and powerful. However, many of us lack the resources and/or the belief in ourselves to fully reach our potential or to feel as worthy and worth it as we are." And I find that a very sad truth. And I want everyone to know who they are. I want you to walk out of this building today and say, I know who I am. I think that is such a powerful statement when you can feel it and really believe it. Because I know who you are. I know who you are, each and every single one of you. You are that powerful, creative child of God. That's big. And if we want to work toward experiencing enlightenment on an everyday basis, we need to begin by understanding our core essence, who we are, part of that oneness. We always have been and always will be perfect in our spiritual essence. That is the absolute truth. And we're exactly where we need to be on our spiritual path, no matter where you are in your life. You're exactly where you need to be at this moment in time. And from a human perspective, we will never be able to do human perfectly. And that's perfect. We're not supposed to be doing human perfectly. We're here to learn, to grow, to expand, to become more aware. Babies are born into this world knowing their self-worth. And then as life moves on, the comments, the expectations, the attitude of others in our life can wear down that natural sense of self-worth that we are born into this world with. So the idea of building it back up is natural, it's essential, it's healthy, it's necessary. So I invite you this week to pay very close attention to how you feel about yourself. Understand that the power of your attitude and views about yourself are huge. Huge. Pay attention to how you perceive yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you represent yourself. Those are the things that become your reality. Thank you so much for being here while I shared this truth as I understand it.